Thanks for joining us for That Larimer County Show. On this edition, we're going to talk about the proposed 2016 Larimer County budget. I'm Denny LaRue, Larimer County Community Information Manager, and here at the table with me, Josh Fudge, our Budget Director at Larimer County, our County Manager, Linda Hoffman, and of course my co-host, Neil Gluckman, Assistant County Manager. Hi, Neil.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. It's going good.
Okay, well, I guess we'll kick this off. Every year we have a budget. We do one annually, and this year is no different. And I think the county manager by October 15th has to present a balanced budget to our county commissioners. And after that, there's a process of hearings and input from the public. But before we even start with the county budget of 2016, which is coming up, let's talk about the accomplishments of 2015. So what did the county accomplish in 2015?
Well, I'll only hit the highlights because
there are so many.
There are so many. Some of the important things that we did was we really continued with flood and fire recovery. And I know that that seems like at the distance past for a lot of people, but the county is still doing a lot of work on roads and with individual families, working to get those federal dollars leveraged with local matches and make the improvements we need to get people home and back into their businesses and all the rest. Another thing that we worked on pretty hard was in our criminal justice system. You would think that there would be a good way of sharing information about the status of offenders within the criminal justice system, but that really is a challenge for not only our county, but many others. Some other counties in Colorado have hired vendors and spent lots of money, and they're behind schedule. But our staff worked internally with our information technology staff and actually have a system up and running that we're calling LOIS, which is Larimer Offender Information System. The county's also involved in a number of regional activities where we're working cooperatively with our municipalities on a whole host of subjects, including services for seniors, tax increment financing, radio communication, solid waste, the plan for the future. So we're excited about working in such lockstep with our municipal partners on those bigger issues. So that's some of the main things that come to mind for me.
Okay. When we talk about, and that is in addition to all the services the county provides, by the way, so that's important too. When we talk about the budget, we're talking about different revenues, which we'll go over, but just to remind people that our budget, our property taxes that property owners pay, about 25% stays with the county. The school districts see about 50%, and then special districts and municipalities, the remainder. But it's good to know that the services then, it's that 25% of the general fund, the property tax dollars. And just a point of education.
The other important thing there is, the county, people sometimes think that the cities and counties are really parallel in the services we offer, and that the county just provides service in rural areas and then cities inside municipal boundaries. But that's really only true of a very small number of county services. The vast majority of county services are provided blind to city boundaries. So our budget includes services for everybody, not just rural residents.
Such as health, human services,
law enforcement.
The jail. The jail is a Larimer County function.
And our alternative sentencing program, and of course the district attorney is funded through the county's budget. So there are a lot of services that really go across boundaries.
Sure, one of the biggest every 2 years, actually every year, but a major election.
Yes.
Yeah.
And very expensive to do that one day. Well, you think it's a one day. Actually, right now, things have changed dramatically. It's no longer a one-day function.
No, it's not with early voting. It's an extended period.
Yeah.
And it's about $2 million extra in the budget in 2016 for that?
Yeah, it'll be an increase of about $2 million over what was in 2015 for the kind of off-cycle elections, so about $2.8 million total.
Wow. So elections are pretty costly, and moving on then, let's talk about the major factors that went into the proposed 2016 budget. What was affecting the recommendations?
Well, the good news in the 2016 budget is by state law, every other year the assessor reappraises all the property in the county. And we have been flat on property tax values for 7 or 8 years, really. And this was the first reappraisal year where there is a significant uptick in the value of property in Larimer County. Countywide, it's up about 15.3%. Now, of course, that varies from one part of the county to another, so it may not be your tax bill that reflects exactly that amount, but on average, about 15.3%. So that's a lot. And so the county had the opportunity to use that revenue in ways that the county has really fallen a little bit behind in previous years. So that's good news in the budget. The commissioners really looked in their budget guidelines toward focusing on the things that are in our strategic plan. So things like transportation and mental health and all of our other strategic plan goals. And they're also going to be offering a temporary rebate to taxpayers to kind of soften the blow of that increase on property taxes for this year.
Let's talk about that for a minute. What does that mean? That happens in 2016 when someone gets their tax bill. We pay in arrears, and so it's based on this year's property tax. So is it a credit or a rebate, or how should that be verbalized? So yeah.
Yeah, good question. So when you get your tax bill at the end of the year, it'll show, obviously the municipalities, the school districts, here's an amount. And for Larimer County, it'll show an amount of, a few $100s or whatever yours adds up to. There'll be a little note that says this amount includes the 2016 property tax rebate. So in effect, you'll write your property tax check just like you always do, and that'll be it. The county will just collect less money than it otherwise would have if the credit weren't in there. That way there's no time and expense spent on mailing people checks and, making sure everyone's addresses are right and things like that. The county will just collect less than it otherwise would have.
So everybody's property tax bill will be a little less than maybe it would have been otherwise.
Than it would have been, yeah.
The way that, a way of looking at that is if you look at just the amount that the general fund would have increased because of the increase in appraised value, the commissioners are sending back a slice that's 22% of that increase amount. Another exciting thing that they're doing is they're taking a 17% slice of the increase and earmarking that for transportation, particularly regional transportation. So the way that the mill levy works for road and bridge for counties is we share our revenue with cities. So that is by a complicated formula I won't go into, but a portion of the money goes to municipalities and a portion goes to the county. So we are approaching all of the municipalities about the possibility of setting aside the bulk of that revenue for I-25 improvements. We are hopeful that the state will get a grant, and that grant will need a local share to match in order to pull down the federal funds. And this would be a way for Larimer County to raise funds by kind of substituting that need out of our general fund normal contributions. So we hope that that could be divided in such a way that there'd be money for I-25 improvements and also money for one regional improvement that we don't have another source of funding for.
I can't imagine that, it's hard to imagine that other municipalities wouldn't support I-25 improvements. It's such a big issue for northern Colorado.
Well,
It's huge.
we're very hopeful.
Yeah.
Not all of the I's are dotted and the T's crossed, but we're hopeful that we'll be able to negotiate an arrangement that will make that possible for our community.
And this is proposed, we have to remember that. So,
Correct, yeah.
It's not a done deal yet.
So you've been saying that we've been ratcheting down for the last 7 or 8 years, and now would you say we're ratcheting up? We're not going back up to let's say 10 years ago in terms of FTEs or services?
No, we're not. And, I don't think we're going back any place. We do have a little bit more revenue in the coming year than what we have been surviving with in the past years. But we're really trying to take a forward look with that money. So we're not just replacing positions that were lost, we're really being strategic about today's needs. So for example, we're proposing that there'll be a cybersecurity officer. Mm-hmm. That's a position we've never had before, but it's a very contemporary need. There's also money proposed for updating our electronic data storage. We've been doing it one way in the past. We think that we need to make an investment and improve how we've been doing that. So I wouldn't say we're going back. I think we're going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we tried to encourage divisions and elected offices to use performance data too in their requests and provide justification that our clerk and recorder did a great job of saying this proposal will help us reduce time that people have to wait if they come into the office to re-register their vehicle and things like that. And so we took a hard look at things like that, and like Linda mentioned with the data storage, it'll save money in the long run because we'll have to buy less servers to store our data. We'll be able to do it in a much more virtual setting. So we're trying to look forward as to what does the county need as we grow, but also not just adding capacity, but adding it in a way that improves performance as well.
Mm-hmm.
How do we compare with other entities, municipalities in the county on employee ratios?
So we did look at employees per 1,000 population. The county, if the positions were approved in the proposed budget for 2016, would be at about 5.3 positions per 1,000. It varies greatly among the municipalities, anywhere from 2.5, I think, per 1,000 up to 20. Mm-hmm. Estes Park has that higher rate, but mainly because they're a tourist destination, their actual population is low. And there's a wide mix of services mm-hmm. as well. Loveland, their employees perform library services and trash collection where maybe others don't. I think the average of the municipalities is around 8 mm-hmm. per 1,000. So, the county is very competitive and reasonable in that regard. And, before the recession in 2008, it was up around 5.7, 5.6 FTEs, and as a result of the recession, it went down from there. So, we're right in line with kind of the norm, I think, and with historical trends as well.
Mm-hmm. Comparisons to cities is a little bit of an apples to mm-hmm. oranges comparison because the county provides much different services, and so many of the services the county performs go across those boundaries. So we have a base of services for the communities, and then the cities actually build on top of that. So our 5.3 per 1,000 population includes the whole population of the county because that's who we serve. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Moving on then, what about the strategic plan? Did that play a piece in this year's proposed budget?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're both excited. You go ahead and talk.
So, like Linda mentioned, there are specific items related to transportation. One of the goals is to not have any deficient bridges, I think, by 2020. And so the proposed budget includes $1 million of additional revenues for road and bridge to help with those maintenance activities and for bridge capital. There's funding for the Justice Portal. There's funding to start identifying the mental health needs that we have, funding for senior transportation, which is one of the other goals in the strategic plan, which is to help those seniors who, don't live in an urbanized area where there's good public transportation. What's a way to keep them mobile and keep them independent in their homes and things like that. We're also looking at updating the comprehensive master plan for the county, the land use code. And those are
Economic development too.
Oh, and economic development, I'm sorry, and Neil's right here. So creating an economic development office to take on some of the role of the former Northern Colorado Economic Development Corporation, I think it was called, and really starting to have that county-wide focus on, driving economic growth anywhere in the county.
So the strategic plan, was it 3 years ago that we started it?
2013, so yeah,
about
about that.
2 years ago. And the first year was really just getting it going, and now we're getting into the implementation part, and it sounds like our county commissioners are actually helping implement it by putting money in that you recommended to make some of these things happen. So we are funding those strategic goals and initiatives, and that's one side. And the other side is probably enhanced services.
Right.
Yeah.
And how does that work? Tell me about the process.
Well, Larimer County is a little different than some other entities in that we start our budget process frighteningly soon after the last budget is adopted. So one of the things that we did this year was we were guided by a citizen survey that was conducted last spring, where we asked people in a statistically accurate survey, what do you think about county services? Are these important? How well do you think they're performed? And then the commissioners really looked at that data for setting guidelines. We also do some long-range projections to say, well, if we spend at this level, how is that sustainable? We really try to be responsible and sustainable in projecting long-term what our costs and revenues might be. And then each department is given a revenue amount or a budget amount that they try to hit. The commissioners also set compensation in the summer. But then here's the exciting part.
I can't wait.
I know you can. So what we do is we say to departments, okay, try to hit your budget guideline, and they're very responsible, they usually do. And then they will say, and if you want to do something extra, tell us how much money you need, where we might be able to fund that, and then what you'll actually accomplish if we're able to find that funding. And we divide those into categories. So strategic plan ones, like we just talked about, capacity expansions, so maybe demand for services are way up and our staff just can't keep up, like Josh was talking about a few minutes ago with processing vehicle registration. We just need more people. And then the third category are these service expansions. So if there is something that heretofore we have not done, but the community needs, then departments will submit proposals of that type. And we got some in all three categories. Everybody had such great ideas, even some of the ones we weren't able to fund. We're hoping that in another year we'll be able to. And so that's kind of the process and how it is that departments offer their ideas, usually based on customer feedback of what more is needed.
And solving problems.
Yeah.
And Josh, this is your first year of doing a budget at Larimer County. You started last May here at the county. So is this a lot different than what you've done before?
There are things that are very different and there are things that are very similar. A lot of the issues, the services that the county provides are exactly the same as what we provided in Milwaukee County. I can say that Larimer County, thanks to the management of the commissioners and folks around this table, Larimer County is in very good financial shape. So I really commend the management so far, and so it's made this budget I think better to do because you're really focusing on those customer needs and improving service as opposed to just keeping your head above water, which is what I was used to. And I really can't say enough for the professionalism of the staff and the commissioners. And even when there's increasing revenue, there's still a lot of wants and needs, and everyone has really put great ideas on the table and really supported them. And there's going to be differences of opinion, but they're very respectful. And the place I came from, some of the politics of the place weren't so enjoyable that sometimes. So this has really been exciting to come to work and really enjoy solving issues as opposed to putting out fires and things like that. So it's been great, and I'm looking forward to forward to continuing it.
And as Linda was saying, the budget process starts again
Yeah.
right away, so
Yeah.
you won't have long to wait.
Us budget folks are usually in 3 years. We're looking at the past year to see what happened. We're worried about the current year to see what's going to happen, and then next year's budget. So often when I'm talking to people, I'll say this year, and I really mean 2016, because that's the budget we're focused on. So.
Yeah, a lot of work. You talked about service proposals as one area you were really excited about. Is there anything else about the budget that is just so different and new, and that you're really hoping will move us forward with the strategic planning goals too? Yeah.
I think the strategic planning goals are the ones that I'm most excited about, because the county has set forth a 5-year plan for what we really believe the community needs. In one of those goal areas, emergency management, we have already put in place an Office of Emergency Management. We are getting more progressive plans and more descriptive, more detailed, more robust, more complete and comprehensive plans and mitigation in place for disasters. And that's really important. So among the 7,
You know, I just want to weigh in here on that, because on our citizen survey, this was the first year we asked about all 4 pieces of emergency management. It came out so high as important to citizens. Yeah.
great. So we're really putting a lot of effort into transportation in the coming year. The safety and well-being goal is really focused on causal issues of mental health and substance abuse, and the things that we need to break that cycle that keeps people in a pattern of recidivism, however you say that
Very
word.
good,
Recidivism.
Recidivism. So I think that those goals are all moving forward, and then this year we are really putting effort into economic development under Neil's leadership. So that's exciting too. Our internal goals are streamlined operations and customer service. Those groups are doing great work. One of our objective leaders here in Denny. So that's great stuff.
And the kind of the redo of the master plan
Right.
is very exciting, and that really falls under economic development too. I think that we're looking forward to working with that, but that's a big endeavor.
Right.
And you've been focusing on that, Neil, for a little while, the economic development piece.
Yeah.
It's been
And you know, as we're taping this, this is the proposed budget, so I'm still have my fingers crossed.
Well, and we just have a few minutes left, actually, and so we want to say that if you want to make a comment on the budget, you can just go to larimer.org, www.larimer.org. We'll have the dates, times, places for the budget hearings. You can always email the commissioners, call the commissioners. You could Facebook and text and tweet and, get your voice to the commissioners, or, call the commissioner's office and set up a meeting. But it's important they hear from people on, if they have a particular thing they want to talk about with the budget.
Bottom line is we have a very transparent process, and anyone that wants to provide input can provide input.
And that's anything you'd like to close with on the budget?
No, I just want to say this has been I've actually learned a lot, even having some previous experience, and I've enjoyed the process, and especially being on TV here has been an interesting experience.
Are you totally relieved, Linda, that we're getting to the point of now it's proposed, it's out,
Well, it is a big job,
It
because
is.
I don't think that we used any of the numbers, but in total the county's budget is over $200 million.
252.
252
And
this year.
we have about a minute to mention that if you'd like the numbers, and if what percent they go up and down. And
I don't have all those committed to memory, so
the increase in expenditures is about thank you. It is about 5% over the 2015 revised budget. If you add on some of the internal, one department paying another and things like that, that's about $116 million. And then disaster costs in 2016 are about $38 million. So the total gross amount is about $407.2 million. which is an increase of about 4% over what was adopted and 3.5% over the revised in 15.
And what's our actual proposed operating, what we provide services on?
That's the 252.6 million. Yep, and that's about a 4.7% increase over what's been revised so far this year.
It's a really big job putting together a nearly $253 million budget.
And keep reminding folks that in terms of revenue, we're only a quarter of the
property
tax.
tax. So all this is done with that
Yeah.
and other funds. Anything else we want to add? No?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Our county manager, our budget director, Josh Fudge, and of course, Neil Gluckman, assistant county manager. And thank you for joining us on That Larimer County Show.